So, what can you tell me about the Book of Heroes single player content?
The Book of Heroes is a brand new 10 installment batch of content that's coming to Hearthstone. Each installment will be telling the lives of one of the classic or core heroes from Hearthstone. So you'll get to learn more about where they came from and what made them who they are and why they're representing their class for us here in Hearthstone. We were very inspired by the prologue content for Demon Hunter, so we wanted to expand on that and this time give you 8 fights per character instead of just the few that we did for prologue, so you can really come to understand who they are and what drives them.
What kinds of storytelling possibilities does the Book of Heroes format open up that you didn't have with previous single player adventures?
I think one of the things we really experimented with was telling slightly more serious types of stories, because the Warcraft lore itself, covers all different kinds of emotions. And Hearthstone, of course, is very famous for its comedic storylines. But here you can kind of get a little bit of everything. You can enjoy the best of what Warcraft has to offer, still in the Hearthstone the Hearthstone format and with Hearthstone mechanics. So it ended up working out, I think, much more naturally than at least I initially anticipated.
What made the team want to start with Jaina, and what can you tell me about the story you'll be telling with her?
I think Jaina is just an iconic character who grabbed all of us right away. Of course, she's also featured in the tutorial for Hearthstone, so there was just kind of a natural fit there. And I don't think anyone realized this until we were in the process of it, but the Scholomance set of cards ended up working out very well while we were building decks for Jaina to use in Book of Heroes. So there's kind of some happy coincidences there. And if you're a player who's, not dipped too far into Scholomance yet, you can see some of those cards featured in Jaina's decks. So it's kind of a nice way to bring all of those different things happening in the game together in that same piece of content.
Jaina's been one of the most recognizable heroes in Warcraft. We got Greg here, who's like a big World of Warcraft player. So what's something that a longtime follower of the franchise should look out for in her story?
I think for people who have enjoyed Jaina's storyline so far, it will hopefully feel very much like a wonderful nostalgia, getting to relive that and enjoy all of those moments. There are places where we've put in just little Easter eggs and hints to the even deeper lore behind everything. So if you have read the novels and all the comics and all that stuff, you might notice here and there some nods to that. There are also little things like the way the decks were built try to reflect who she is at a given time, whether it's just simpler spells when she's starting out to when she's allied with a blue dragonflight. There's a Doomed Apprentice card in one scene, so all my lore fans, you can enjoy figuring out those references. But hopefully it's also nice as a more condensed encounter that you can offer to somebody who maybe doesn't know the lore very well and doesn't have the stack of novels on their desk yet, so that they can dive in and understand all of your jokes and the things that you enjoy about Jaina.
And I'm glad you're mentioning the decks. Will the Book of Heroes stories work to help players learn more about the different ways to play each individual Hearthstone class?
Yeah, I think so. If you're somebody who doesn't play mage a lot, you'll get to kind of tour through some of the main archetypes. To be fair, they are a little wackier because you do get some special Book of Heroes only single player cards in there too. Things that would be wildly disruptive in ranked play are perfectly fine in single player. And it really gives you that experience of becoming powerful, right? Because if we were all as powerful as Jaina, I feel like we'd all be in trouble, right? we'd be exploding everything. But yeah, hopefully it's accessible. It was designed to try to be accessible enough to people who aren't super mains in a certain class, so you can just kind of enjoy what's going on with all these different play styles and classes and Some of the fights are pretty unusual, single player only type encounters, but you'll also see a lot of stuff that is fairly similar to what's going on outside of single player.
Do you have a favorite of the cards that are exclusive to Book of Heroes?
Oh, that's hard to say. The Staff of Antonidas is no joke, though, as is the Focusing Iris. So keep an eye out for those ones. They pack a punch.
And who are some of the bosses we'll be encountering in Jaina's solo adventure?
You'll start off trying to convince Archmage Antonidas to teach Jaina. He's a very famous card in Hearthstone and really a nice guy, but he's sort of busy, and the whole invasion from the orcs is kind of distracting him. But Jaina ends up being successful in this endeavor. So that's how she formally learns magic. From there, you'll also see some of her early encounters with other really well-known lore characters like Kael'thas and Arthas. Too bad about how that one ends, though.
And lastly, for me, it's a little early to ask this, but what are some of the ideas that the team is floating around for some of the other stories in the Book of Heroes?
Well, we have committed, to doing one installment for each of our core heroes. So that's a lot of ground to cover. In some cases, it only makes sense that you will see the same fight from both sides, which makes it kind of a different experience, as characters, just like people, remember things a little bit differently depending on their perspective. So that's something we started exploring with Illidan in Prologue, where in his version of events, things happened a certain way. But maybe when we get to Malfurion, we'll see, oh, that's very different. We've only confirmed so far, but please look forward to everyone, because there are a lot of exciting moments and crazy battles to choose from.
Yeah, Val, were you able to get Laura Bailey to come back in and voice some lines for Jaina in this new story campaign?
We're so happy, given the unprecedented circumstances, we were able to have her return and do her wonderful work as Jaina. We had a lot of discussions about which parts of her life we were in at the moment, and Laura, being an incredible actress, changed her performance for like a younger Jaina versus Warcraft 3 era Jaina versus our Hearthstone Jaina. So it was really amazing, right? Getting to see her do that. Her experience and her craft is just beautiful to hear.
And then in terms of story, the Warcraft universe has its lore set in stone, but the Hearthstone universe, like you mentioned before, is a lot more humorous, funny, more lighthearted. How do you take advantage of that to make these more serious moments funny, or change them a bit to be more entertaining or more lighthearted?
I think everything is just a source of inspiration for us, even if it's something that wasn't exactly core to the original lore. We want to be true to that, but also give some winks where we can, and Easter eggs where we can, and build out a full experience. So, for example, with Antonidas, he has this very famous wild deck that's quite silly, where he just duplicates things a lot and creates shenanigans for the opposing player. So I did take some inspiration from that, because it's the first fight. I didn't want it to be too difficult, but having the idea that he's very impressive and he's always duplicating things, but they're not such difficult minions that you will get overwhelmed. So I was kind of happy that I could pair the image of Antonidas in Hearthstone with the image of Antonidas from the lore. So you'll still you'll have all these worlds colliding in ways that are exciting and fun.
It's funny about as being a hardcore fan of Warcraft for many, many years, it's always fun to see stuff come to light in a different vision with the different interpretations. And one of the things that not only Hearthstone has taught me is that I was saying Scoliomance wrong for the longest time. I was saying Schooliomance, so everyone can take something away from this, even the hardcore fans like me.
Yeah, and for some terms their pronunciation changes over time, so we try and be really careful about that. but mostly it makes me happy because the world is so big, right? And it's a world that we can all be a part of as it grows and changes.
Well, obviously, there's, like as you said, there's books and there's novels out there, but the core of the gameplay goes back to the Warcraft 3 days. When you guys were developing this narrative, did you guys go back and play the game again, watch all the cutscenes, and say, wow, like, look how far gaming has come since then?
Yeah, it's really an incredible journey. I mean, for me, I just passed my 13th year here at Blizzard, so getting to revisit some of these moments was pretty great, even just from a personal perspective. And I'm really hopeful that players will be able to enjoy these storylines, you know, whether they played them before or they're playing them for the first time in Hearthstone. Because Book of Heroes is out there, it's free for everyone, and you can just pop into Hearthstone and play and have this experience, which is a pretty magical thing.
And then when can people experience their first hero story in Book of Heroes?
Jaina's installment will be released with patch 18.2, September 15th.